I wanted to follow my cousin. I was going in the Marine Corps. My ego, I had this ego where I just wanted to be a badass, and it wasn't. I have nephews that are my nephews, friends, my friends' kids who are thinking about joining the military, and I feel like I'm okay with sharing my experience and letting them know, hey, if your main purpose for joining the military isn't to serve this country so that others can be safe, and you're willing to live or die for this, because you will probably be put in a situation where you're going to sacrifice your life, and if you're not okay with that, then don't join the military. If you're going for some other reason, for benefits or whatever, you might find yourself in a position where you're going to say, hey, this isn't worth it. And so, go for a good reason. And I went to the Marine Corps because I remember my thinking back then. I wanted to be a badass. I wanted to be a killer. I wanted to, all this stuff that I saw on TV. That's what I wanted to be. And I thank God that God humbled me early in my life, because I think I could have been that person that did some horrible things out in the field, that I wouldn't be able to live with, or that would haunt me, because I went in with the wrong intentions, and I needed now I see that, okay, my life purpose wasn't to be this Rambo and to kill people. My life purpose is to help save people. And I didn't see that back then.
Welcome to the Transition Drill Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Pantiani. I appreciate you taking the time to watch. So let's get into this. You have any races planned this year?
Races?
Like marathons, running races?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to India the end of February to run a marathon in New Delhi, and I feel like I'm hearing my spit or something. Yeah, so I'm going to India. We're going to run the New Delhi Marathon. So we'll be in India for a week, and then a week in the Maldives. And as soon as we get back from India, we have the LA Marathon.
How many countries will that be now that you've run in?
Ecuador, Egypt, and India. It'll be 3.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's a really cool way of going to see a country. Mm-hmm. I did my one and only Ironman. I did it in New Zealand, and just the experience of being literally feet on the ground for that many hours and that many miles. It's a different experience of a country.
Oh man, I can't even imagine biking. What is it, like 100 some miles, or
112 mile bike?
After the way I feel after a marathon, to think of riding that far and then swimming that far.
Well, the marathon comes last. Mm-hmm. So if you talk to anybody who's involved in triathlon, it's a warm-up swim to a warm-up bike to a run. The run is always the equalizer. There have been many top-level athletes who came into it as a competitive swimmer or a competitive cyclist, but if they can't run, it always is their Achilles heel. When I was doing my triathlons, there was a professional who was a former professional cyclist, mm-hmm. and in some of his early triathlons, he was coming off the bike with a 10 or 15 minute lead, which is just insane. and then still being run down over the 26 miles. So it's all about the run. Don't fool yourself.
I've done a handful of mini Olympic triathlons. I think that's a distance, Olympic triathlons. And I see why the swimming comes first, because if you try to swim after you're tired like that, you're going to drown out there. So, I mean, swimming in the ocean, I forgot. I think we did like a Olympic distance is like a mile swim or something like that.
Like 1 kilometer.
Something like that. Yeah. And then the bike, the cycling afterwards. And then the run was, I think, only 6 miles or something. But I've had a taste of what that would be like. And I think at some point in my life, I'd like to be able to say I completed an Ironman. It's tough. Sounds tough.
With all of my training for that, the one thing that has always been my Achilles heel is running. Even when I specifically trained just for a marathon, there's just something about being 200 pounds and trying to run 26 miles. Your body at one point in time just kind of goes, and I'm not saying this is for everybody. There are probably some 200 pounders who are very good runners. Not me.
Either.
My body gets to about 16 miles and it starts going, timeout. I don't like this anymore.
Yeah.
And I had for my Ironman, I remember coming off the bike and getting into the run and having a pain on my foot that I had never felt before in all of my training. And in my head, I said, well, if I'm screwing my foot up, I'll deal with it after this. I'm not quitting now.
Yeah.
And so I've done probably 4 or 5 just dedicated marathons, and I can't say that I've ever had a good experience in any one of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. I guess I'm grateful for that. I think most of my marathons have been, I've never really run for time. I really try to enjoy it. So if I'm pushing myself too hard, then I'm hating it. I'm just going to slow it down and enjoy the run a little bit. I recently did a 54 miler from Canoga Park to Long Beach, and
organized or just on your own?
It was a little bit organized. It wasn't an official like where you could register for it. It was just our running club, the Skid Row Running Club, does it once a year, and there was aid stations every 8 miles. But yeah, I felt it was a little bit enjoyable, but also there was some times where I'm just like, why the hell am I doing this?
And I'm sure most people listening right now are going, there's no one who thinks a marathon is enjoyable.
I bet. Yeah. I'm sure. The first time I did that ultra, I didn't finish. I pulled the plug at mile 36, and it bothered me all year. Like, man, 36, you quit at 36 miles. And, but I wasn't trained. I didn't train up for it. I wasn't passionate about it, but I think that year that it bothered me so bad, when I came back to do that ultra, I said, my race doesn't start until mile 36. And so, I just took it easy up until mile 36, and we made it. And it was about mile, 50 when I felt like, okay, I'm almost at the finish line. I'm going to step on the gas a little bit, and I finished strong, and it was good.
I know you said it wasn't an organized event, but it was loosely organized by your running club. Mm-hmm. Were you able to run sustained, or were there scheduled stopping points?
Oh yeah, there was stopping points. I mean, there was plenty of times where I had to walk a little bit, but it was a run walk. For the most part, it was, we were jogging the whole way.
How many hours did you get into it?
12 hours.
Good on you. A marathon is daunting enough, and I can't even say if I'll ever get back to that level again, but it's weird for me to say that, considering that I have done an Ironman, and there were people who say, how did you even agree to do that? You just did. I put it in my head. I said, I'm going to do it. And I was with a group of friends who were all doing triathlons, but the idea of ever doing an ultra has never even, it doesn't even stick in my head long enough to consider it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I feel about the 100 milers. I know how I felt after the 54 miler when I hear my buddies say, we're going to run this 100-mile ultra. And I can't even imagine what it would feel like, the way I felt when I hit the finish line to run all the way back. Like, no way.
Yeah, well, I'm done. No, hey, turn it around.
Yeah.
Here's a cup of water. Keep going.
Yep. But I really feel like, it's how we set our mind. If I set my mind on, okay, at 54 miles, I'm done, then at 54 miles, I feel really done. But if I had it in my mind, like I'm not done until I hit 100 miles, and maybe at that 54 mile mark, I'd feel like, okay, we're a little bit more than halfway through this. Like, let's keep going. Who knows?
You sign up for the 100-miler. I'll be at the end with a pizza. Give you something to aim for.
Yeah, I'll let you know if I do that for sure. It's yeah.
So let's go backwards a little bit. Tell me where hometown is. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Oxnard, California. Grew up in Oxnard all my life. Graduated from Oxnard High School, and I had a loving family. My parents got divorced when I was 8, and my dad was an alcoholic, but he was a real loving alcoholic. What I learned, I learned this years after I kind of judged my dad for his alcoholism. He was abused as a kid. His mom broke his collarbone as a child because of how like rough she was with him. But one thing, my dad never hit me, and he was an alcoholic. There's no doubt about it, but he was a loving alcoholic.
Did you know he was an alcoholic as a kid growing up? Did you recognize it?
No, I just thought he liked to drink. I thought he liked to party, and I thought that he would rather hang out with his friends than to be a father to me. My parents, when they got divorced when I was 8, he split, and we didn't. He wasn't that father figure that I needed growing up. But so I see now that he did the best with what he had, and the same thing that's in him was also in me. I became an alcoholic and started to become just like my dad. I grew. Growing up, it was me, my mom, my sister, and my dad. Whenever he'd make some time.
Sister older or younger?
Yeah,
than
my
you?
sister's older.
By how many years?
8 years.
Oh wow, so a big gap.
Mm-hmm.
How long were your parents? You said they divorced when you were 8. How long were they married?
Well, I guess they got married right before I was born, so probably 8 years. Yeah.
Did your mom ever remarry?
Yes. Yeah. She remarried when I was in high school, my junior year of high school, and then we moved to Camarillo.
Was your stepdad a good influence in your life?
He was, but he didn't want to. I was already at the age where he didn't really want to discipline. He wasn't that disciplinary figure in my life. He kind of let my mom be my mom, and if I needed him for something, he was there.
What kind of work did your mom do?
She worked in a factory for 3M.
And your dad?
Same.
And were they generational in the Oxnard area? Or, did you, like your grandparents and stuff, are they all from the same area?
Yeah, my grandparents came my grandmother came from Mexico, brought my mom here from Mexico as a child, and then my dad's family is from Texas, and so my parents, they met at work, when they both worked at that 3M factory.
In Oxnard?
In Camarillo, yeah.
Camarillo. Mm-hmm. And as a kid growing up, what kind of kid were you? Were you a good kid? Were you getting into trouble? How was school? That type of stuff.
I was a good kid, man. I was involved in martial arts and very very loving kid. Very I think I was a sensitive, emotional kid. So things not bothered me, but it was hard for me just to let things go. And so when my parents divorced and my dad left, I was craving that father figure. And so I was influenced by rap music instead, and I'd stay in the house for hours drawing because my mom worked nights. And so I would draw and draw and draw. And I got good at, I got good, drawing. And then as I got older and started to get in trouble, that started to turn into graffiti. And so, yeah, I really rebelled. I got into a lot of trouble in high school. I had a girlfriend at the time and got her pregnant my senior year of high school. And I figured, I got to do something. I'm getting caught up in this lifestyle. And, there's Oxnard has a lot of, Hispanic gangs out there. And so I was starting to hang out with the wrong people. And I knew that if I wanted to make if I wanted to change the path that I was on, I'd probably have to go to the Marine Corps or something. I had one cousin, and my cousin David, that was a good role model in when I was growing up. He went to the Marine Corps after high school. He became a drill instructor. I mean, he's been deployed to every single campaign from Somalia to Iraq and Afghanistan. Just did 20 years in the Marine Corps. He's Ventura County Sheriff now on the SWAT team, and he became everything that I wanted to be, And
how much older than him? Older than you was he?
He's I believe 3 years, maybe.
So not much older.
Not much older. 3-4 years. Yeah, and so.
Was he squared away as a kid growing up that you could see? Like you talked about, you got into graffiti and starting to kind of go down the path of getting into trouble. Was he squared away as a kid? Or
he was pretty squared away. He was on the wrestling team and he was an athlete. And I think his relationship with his dad was a little bit different than what my relationship with my dad was. I'm barely learning things now that my dad never told me. My dad never told me about finding your purpose in life and having a mission, being part of being part of something that's greater than just you. And so when my parents divorced, I remember feeling like when I have my family, I'm gonna make sure that my son isn't missing spending time with me, isn't saying, where's my dad, and so subconsciously I grew up making my primary focus on keeping my family together. And I was this young dad at 18 and looking back on it, and some people might hate me for saying this, but it's almost like I had like this this girly primary focus, like, I needed to make sure that my wife and my son and my family and that we were gonna stay together, and that's it.
In just listening to you, though, in my opinion, that's actually quite mature. Maybe at the time, maybe when you're 18 years old, that doesn't seem macho or masculine, but that's actually a very mature mentality to be thinking about putting your family first.
Right. And I guess the way I was focusing on it was unhealthy. Like, if my wife did something, instead of me staying focused on what my mission, what my life goal was, I'd let that, whatever was going on, throw me off. Like I wasn't centered, and I wasn't a centered, confident man. I was a broken, young, immature person that needed a male role model or some type of a guide to show me like, stay on track. Because if you are secure on your path, your family will be secure also, because they will you will lead the way.
Right.
But instead I was letting the young woman that I was in love with and all that drama lead the way. And I was not stable at all. I just, but
you were 18, like most 18-year-olds have no direction in life.
Yeah. Yep.
You mentioned martial arts. So how old were you when you got into martial arts? And what did you get into?
I got into traditional karate and so I did martial arts as a kid. I did, a lot of competitions. And when I started getting into trouble, my mom sent me to go live with my aunt and uncle in Flagstaff, Arizona. And so my uncle competed also in martial arts. And so I got really involved and I liked it. But I got homesick. I was out there in Arizona for a year. I missed California. And I came back to California and had this a little bit of martial arts training. Had this, I was always pulled. I allowed myself to be pulled to that rambunctious, kind of wrong crowd, and so, I did what a wild kid from a broken home did. Did you
ever do anything that actually crossed the line and got you arrested?
Oh yeah. We got involved with still, like, do you remember pull out stereos? Yeah.
That's even before removable faceplates.
Yes. So
but it was very convenient, because what you did is you pulled it out of the dash and you put it under the seat, like that meant anything.
Right. Or you carried around a big old box with you. Yeah. And so I got involved with stealing car stereos and I remember when I got arrested, my mom busted her ass and worked nights at this factory, and me and my friends were handcuffed, and I was wearing $130 Air Max shoes. And I remember the officer asking me and my friends were they were from poor families, and the officer was asking, why are you guys doing this? And we all had the same excuse. We're just, we're trying to, we don't have money. We're just doing stupid stuff to get money. And I said that as I hung my head low and I saw my shoes, and I was like, I'm not doing this for my mom busts her ass so that I could have everything in the world. And yeah, I might not have everything, but, I'm wearing $136 shoes right now. And so I think it was more about needing some guidance and less about needing material things.
And I think that every kid, to some degree, needs that. You can go way down the rabbit hole of, does it need to be a father figure? Does it need to be a mother figure? Every kid needs a strong parent figure. And if you don't have that in your life, the one thing you don't know as a kid is establishing your own barriers of what to bounce off of. And so, you didn't have that in your life. I mean, it sounds like your mom was doing everything she could, but you still needed maybe a little bit more kind of corralling, so to speak.
For sure. Because, I didn't want to be like my mom. I looked up to my dad. I wanted to be, my dad was a tough, very charismatic kind of ladies man, fun to be around, always having barbecues, and everyone around him was happy, having a good time, throwing horseshoes, and it was fun.
He was Disneyland dad.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Now, for you, while you were in high school, did you end up graduating? Like, did you graduate on time? Do you have any issues with your grades?
Yeah, no, I graduated on time. I think I struggled. My my freshman year, so, junior, senior year, I think I started to realize I need to do something. And I got involved with these different programs, these different academic programs, Upward Bound program. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. But one summer they took us to this university. We stayed in the dorms, and I had a lot of one-on-one that helped me get really good in math, because I had ADD as a kid. I never took meds as a kid, and so struggling with math and just struggling in school in general was constant for me. But in that program, I had a lot of one-on-one, and it helped me get better at math. And then, but for some reason, well, no, not for some reason, my girlfriend, I got her pregnant, and I was like, holy shit, what am I going to do? And so I didn't want to go to college anymore. I was like, I'm going to go to the Marine Corps. My cousin David, he also had one of his sons in high school, and then shortly after that had another son, and they got married, went to the Marine Corps, and he was here in Camp Pendleton, and just had, from what I saw, had a good life and was doing the right thing. And I thought I would follow in his footsteps, but sometimes when you try to live someone else's life, it doesn't always work out that way. You kind of got to make your own path sometimes.
Were you involved in sports in high school?
A little bit, yeah, but I wasn't. I played football. I wasn't great at the sports that I played in high school, because I didn't play sports like Pop Warner. I didn't. So when I got to high school and got involved with sports, a lot of my friends who were playing, they had been playing, since they played Little League and Pop Warner and all that stuff. And so, I didn't do any of that as a kid. My mom worked. My dad was, doing his thing, and me and my sister were at home. We were latchkey kids. I barely learned what that term was, and we were latchkey kids. We walked home from school. Nobody was supposed to know we had a key. We let ourselves in. We closed the door behind us, and if someone knocked, or we were quiet. Nobody could know we were there. And if someone called and asked to talk to an adult in the house, oh, my dad's in the shower, I'll have him call you back. And there was no one there, but we couldn't let anyone know that. So yeah, I think that's while we were indoors, most of our friends were playing sports, and I wasn't. I didn't really get into high school sports. I didn't get as good as I'd like to.
So prior to getting your girlfriend pregnant, did you have aspirations for college?
I don't know. I don't even think I thought that far. I think, like I tell my son now, you think you have time, you think you have all this time in the world to figure it out, but you don't have a whole lot of time. And I think that's where I was at, in high school, where I just thought, like, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. But never really had any aspirations to be like any, I don't know. Yeah, no, I didn't have any direction.
You've mentioned a couple times that you did have limited interaction with your dad, and he was kind of the fun guy to hang around with. Mm-hmm. Was he pushing you towards anything as adulthood? Was he at any point ever talking about, hey, maybe you should do this or this or this when you get out of high school?
No, he lectured me about getting good grades and doing good, and but it's more like a do as I say, not as I do type thing, and so my dad was big on being macho at the time and not letting people push you around. And so I think that was my main focus all the time, was being the tough guy, or wanting to make sure that I didn't have to take any shit from anyone. And so, but so I remember he had said something about me being more sensitive or more emotional than my older brother who was tougher than me. And so I thought, I'm going to go to the Marine Corps and I'll show him, I'm going to be a badass and show him that I'm tough. And when I graduated, he didn't show up to my Marine Corps graduation. And
wow.
And so I felt so bad for my mom because my mom went so proud. My sister, my girlfriend, she was like 4 or 5 months pregnant at the time, and I saw them at my graduation, and they all came up to me, and I'm like, "Where's my dad?" And the look on my mom's face was like, "Hey, I'm here.
What about us?"
Yeah. And so I found out a couple years later that he had got a DUI the night before, and so he was in jail that morning.
So we've made it to the point where you made the decision to go in the military. Did you ever consider any of the other branches, or did you I'm following my cousin, I'm going in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, no, I wanted to follow my cousin. I was going in the Marine Corps. My ego, I had this ego where I just wanted to be a badass, and it wasn't. I have nephews that are my nephews, friends, my friends' kids who are thinking about joining the military, and I feel like I'm okay with sharing my experience and letting them know, hey, if your main purpose for joining the military isn't to serve this country so that others can be safe, and you're willing to live or die for this, because you will probably be put in a situation where you're going to sacrifice your life, and if you're not okay with that, then don't join the military. If you're going for some other reason, for benefits or whatever, you might find yourself in a position where you're going to say, hey, this isn't worth it. And so, go for a good reason. And I went to the Marine Corps because I remember my thinking back then. I wanted to be a badass. I wanted to be a killer. I wanted to, all this stuff that I saw on TV. That's what I wanted to be. And I thank God that God humbled me early in my life, because I think I could have been that person that did some horrible things out in the field, that I wouldn't be able to live with, or that would haunt me, because I went in with the wrong intentions, and I needed now I see that, okay, my life purpose wasn't to be this Rambo and to kill people. My life purpose is to help save people. And I didn't see that back then.
What year did you go in?
I went in 98.
So we had already experienced the Gulf War, and Desert Storm at that point.
Yeah. So I got out. So I served under the Clinton administration during, peacetime. And so, when I got out, I didn't have any, I didn't come out with that, heroes. I didn't come out that decorated, war hero that I thought I was going to be, and I loved my love for the Marine Corps, and my experience with the Marine Corps clashed. I loved being out here in Camp Pendleton, but then I got stationed in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and down south. That's just a different Marine Corps out there. There's a lot of reasons why. There's a lot of reasons why I feel like it didn't work for me, but I was in a good old boys unit. I never felt like, here I was Lance Corporal Barrera out there. I was amigo, like, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter how well I did. I wasn't accepted. That's what I felt. And out here on the West Coast, I never felt any racism, any tension like that. We were all green. We were all brothers, and we were all brothers in arms, and it was awesome. That wasn't my experience out there.
Did your MOS change that caused you to transfer, or what took you from San Diego to North Carolina?
I just got orders from to North Carolina, and I think that was so. My MOS was I was in 0311 Infantry, and I specifically chose that MOS because I figured, I'll be here on the West Coast. I'll be in Camp Pendleton.
Oh no, that was just me.
I'll be here in Camp Pendleton. And I'll go home on the weekends. I'll get deployed for 6 months and whatever, but my wife and my kid, they can be close to their grandparents here in Ventura County, and I'll go do my thing, and I'll be able to see them on the weekends. But that didn't happen. I went out to North Carolina. The only way that I was able to see my son is if I got married and moved them out there. And so that's what happened. We got married way too young. She had an affair out here. And so instead of me focusing on my mission, I was in this platoon that I hated, with people that I didn't feel safe with. And I have this stuff going on with my wife, and it was too much for me to deal with because I was immature. My skin wasn't thick enough. I didn't have that. I wasn't mission driven. I was more like like I said, just trying to keep my family together.
And that's where I was going with my comment previously, because so for instance, my generation, I graduated high school in 87. The men and women that went into the military at that point, we had 20 plus years of basically no conflict. You had Grenada mixed in here and there, but you didn't have that mindset of, oh, wait a minute. When I sign on that dotted line, yeah, I'm signing up. I'm getting good benefits. I'm getting all this. But what I'm signing up for is to go defend this country. And like you brought up a great point. If you don't sit down and really think about the end result, which is I'm potentially going to kill another human being, granted for the betterment of this country.
Right.
But if you're not okay with that, that's a huge negative factor for going into the military. And so what I was getting at is it sounds like you, for the most part, went in for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And you really didn't sit back and evaluate the whole picture. You saw a small picture. Yeah. I'm going to prove to my dad that I'm tough and I'm cool. Mm-hmm. Well, wait a minute. There's all this other part of this picture that I'm not even thinking about.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And, that's exactly it. And so,
was your mom supportive of you going in the Marine Corps?
No, she didn't want me to go to the Marine Corps. She wanted me to go, go to college. And then, she wanted me to, pick an MOS that was anything but infantry, and
something that you could get a skill set to take away from the military.
Yeah.
The one voice of reason that you probably completely ignored.
Yeah, totally. I totally ignored her. I thought it was going to be like the movies or the pictures that my cousin would send postcards from Somalia, and I thought I'd have this band of brothers that I felt tight with, and it was going to be cool. And, but I found myself, it was almost like being homeless with a rifle out in North Carolina with a bunch of dudes that I don't know. I just, maybe my skin wasn't thick enough back then. Maybe I was that emotional kid that my dad said I was. But, like I said, there's a lot of different factors that went into that. And yeah, it didn't go the way I wanted to. And so, I honorably discharged.
Never even considered another enlistment?
No.
I say that jokingly. I can imagine you had the date marked on the calendar. When am I out of here?
Yeah. And, and then, I remember being at my first job on 9/11 and the towers were hit. And then I thought, oh my God, man, there's like, I had went in with this goal and this mission, and now this is happening. And there's nothing that I could do to try to make up or to try to serve or just try to make up for what just happened, and that guilt and the shame.
So you were already out by 9/11?
Yeah. The guilt and the shame that I didn't do my part. I drank, and I drank myself medicated to numb myself, and when the alcohol wasn't enough to numb me, then the cocaine was enough, and then when the cocaine wasn't enough, then the meth, the meth came in, and I was a real bad drunk driver, and I remember my cousin telling me, he said,
your cousin who was in the Marine Corps?
Oh, no, not that cousin.
Okay.
I remember I didn't even want to see that cousin afterwards. When I got out, he was still hard charging. He was still going on deployments, and he was just a beast. And so, like, I remember trying to avoid my Marine Corps family. That was tough on me because, I have a family of Marines, that are tough as nails, and
I mean, I don't want to under or put a negative light on that, but it had to feel internally like you had failed.
Yeah. And you know what? I have one uncle also that was kicked out of the Marine Corps, and he has no problem talking about it. He's like, yeah, they fucking kicked me out, whatever. But he was also in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and he kind of had the same experience. And so him and I, I was able to talk with him about it. Yeah, so.
Well, you got out when?
Right before 9/11, like, I think, June of 2000. Yeah.
Okay. So you were a little over a year out.
Yeah.
Was there any point that you thought about potentially going back in?
No. No, there wasn't. There wasn't, mainly because at that point I was still married. We were still married. And I had a good job at this mortgage company. And we were finally getting past all the lying and the cheating and stuff like that. We were getting past that, and I thought we were getting past it, but I still wasn't doing my part. I was still drinking, numbing my pain. It just, and there's so many things that I didn't see back then. Like, looking back now, any alcoholic any active alcoholic who is with a sober partner, they are going to stress that sober partner out so bad with their alcoholism and their addiction or whatever, and they will push that sober partner into the arms of someone else to talk to other people about all their problems, because as an alcoholic or an addict, we're not hearing it, and so all these years that I blamed her for my pain. I blamed everyone I blamed my dad. I blamed her. I blamed the Marine Corps. I blamed, you know, I had to stop. I had to stop playing the fucking victim at one point. Oh yeah. So I think so what I was talking, let me go back a little bit. So one of my cousins that I used to party with a lot, I was staying at his house. He just had a baby, and I guess I left in the middle of the night drunk, and I left the front door wide open, and something woke him up, and he's like, "What? It's cold in here." And so he goes and he sees his front door open at 3:00 in the morning. He doesn't know if someone's in his house or what, and but he saw my truck gone, and he's like, "Oh, Eric left and just left the door open." And so he told me, "Dude, you took off drunk last night. You're going to end up killing someone and having to spend the rest of your life in prison and not even remember doing it." And I'm a loving person. I care about, the last thing I'd want to do is to hurt someone who was an innocent person that was just trying to get to work or something, and so my best thinking at the time was that I was going to keep cocaine or methamphetamine on me so that I didn't black out, so that I didn't drive drunk anymore. And so, that's what I did. I started waking. It's so funny because here in Temecula is where I started really using hard. And so when I drove back over here, it just brought back a lot of memories. I remember I had a girlfriend out here. I woke up in the morning and said, "Hey, thanks for picking me up last night. I was fucked up, and she said, "Nobody picked you up. You drove." And so I looked out the window. I saw my truck. I drove from Escondido out here, and I don't remember doing that. And so what my cousin told me was very possible, and that I could end up really hurting someone and spending the rest of my life in jail. And so I kept cocaine and meth on me. I stopped blacking out. But I became a hardcore addict, a daily user, and I stopped being able to show up on time. I had an excuse for everything. And I started losing jobs, and people just stopped wanting to deal with me and all my shit. And I ended up homeless. And so that's kind of like the beginning of my homelessness.
You've touched on a lot of things, and I really want to kind of go back and get a little more clarity on them. Something that I will tell you from my heart is, when I first heard your story, I truly wanted to sit and talk with you and allow you to tell it and get it out there. Because I think at the end of the day, your story is very important for people to hear. I'll be honest, one of the concerns I had, because I read something that you did spend quite a bit of time here in Temecula, and as much as I appreciate you willing to come here, I had that in the back of my mind, was that going to be any type of trigger for you? And I was concerned about that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, thank you for that, man. No, I think now, my primary purpose to help anyone who's struggling with addiction or alcoholism or drugs, my primary purpose is so strong now that, I don't care if someone's shooting up right in front of me. If I'm there, I have a purpose for being there. I'm there to try to help or encourage, and then I'm out. So I came back here, and there was just so many memories, man. This meth that we used to use back in the day, bikers used it. People partied on it. It was kind of like a social drug. And I remember living here in Temecula when I felt the dope change, and I don't know, and I think it's when they really locked down ephedrine, and you could not make methamphetamines anymore with ephedrine. So they started using all these other chemicals to try to create the same chemical compound, and the damage that it did to users' minds. It just made them hallucinate and schizophrenic like. And so I remember being out here using, and I felt the dope change. I was like, wow, the party's over. People, I used to be able to use, and people didn't know I was high. They just thought I was busy, you know, and I was energetic or whatever. And now I'd use and I was tripping. I would hear things. I would think things are going on. And my girlfriend that I had out here, I believe she had a person hiding underneath the couch, and that he went into the walls through the fireplace, and he wouldn't get out of our house. And I was like, you know what? I don't care if you have someone else in here, just have them leave, because I can't go to sleep knowing that somebody's here. I feel like someone's going to try to hurt me. So let's just call it what it is. And you go your way, I'll go mine, whatever. But this person that I thought was in our house
was in your head,
was in my head. Yeah. And so I started stabbing the walls because I thought he was there. And my girlfriend at the time just freaked out. She was like, no. And then, so in my mind, I thought, oh, dang, I must be stabbing him, because if she's freaking out,
no, she's thinking we got to pay the security deposit. You're damaging the walls.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, I went nuts. I lost my mind. And,
so give me a time frame. You got out early 2000 of the Marine Corps. Did you immediately come back to California?
Yeah. Yep. I drove from North Carolina all the way back to California.
And when you first came out, what was kind of your did you have a path in mind at that point? What were you doing? What kind of work were you doing when you got out?
I didn't know what I was going to do. One of my cousins, he also went to the Marine Corps after high school, did 4 years, honorably discharged, and just went on to work a job out here. He said, you know what, you could stay with me while you figure out what you're going to do. And so I took some classes. I got a job. I got a job actually where my mom and my dad used to work at 3M. There was another factory next door to it, Technicolor. And so, yeah, I didn't know what I was going to do. I worked, as soon as I got out, I took a couple classes, but
no real path or direction.
No, I was just making ends meet, getting by. And I enjoyed I thought just drinking was part of what we did every weekend or every night after work.
Now, taking it even a little bit further back than that, now that you've had time to look back on your life, when did your drinking really kind of kick in? Were you already drinking a lot before you ever even went in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, I did. I drank, and I was also selling coke. And man, just looking, geez, I don't know what I was thinking, but yeah, I was selling weed, and then I started selling coke in high school, and I thought that I was going to go to the Marine Corps, and the Marine Corps was going to change me miraculously. But I didn't know that they drink hard in the Marine Corps too. We partied, and so I was already drinking before the Marine Corps, and I drank even harder when I got out. And when I tried to stop using stimulants and stop using drugs, my drinking got even worse, because I didn't have that thing to amp me up and get me level me out. So I thought the drugs were leveling me out and keeping me from getting too drunk, but really they just started taking my mind.
And how many years did it take you to end up on the street, homeless?
Oh man, I've done the math, and so I drank and used for about 19 years really hard, and for 19 years, and the last 6 of those years I was homeless. I'd stay wherever I could. Some people would let me crash. I lived in my car, and I had a bad habit. I was a drug addict, and the only way to afford my habit was if I bought a lot of drugs and I sold drugs, and I just I sold half and I used half, and I'd re-up, and I remember always thinking that, I don't need to find a connect if I am the connected. and my ego I had this ego that, like, I thought I was some big shot when I was nobody. I was just a drug addict, and people started, everyone let me stay because I had the drugs, I had the party favors, but it got to a point where I just started losing my mind. It's like, dude, I don't care how much drugs you have, you can't stay here. Like, and so doors started to close.
This may sound like a silly question. Do you remember your rock bottom date?
I think so. Okay. So I remember, this is when I started injecting meth and cocaine, and I remember I'd watch Intervention, and I'm like, man, these guys are going to treatment centers. Like, I've never been to a rehab. And so I remember telling my mom, like, hey, I need help. I've been injecting drugs. And she's like, you're using needles? Like, she just thought I was, I don't know. She just thought I was drinking and maybe putting things in my nose. But she told me, she had gone to Al-Anon, and in Al-Anon, they told her, close the doors, cut him off. The only way he's going to get help is if he has no place else to go. And that was the best thing she could have ever done for me, because she said, you can't stay here. I can't help you with a rehab or anything like that. Go get help, and go get help first. And then you can come, we'll talk about it. And I thought she was the most evil person. I'm like, man, I'm finally reaching out for help, and you just close the door on me. And that was the best thing she could have done, because I didn't know that I had all these benefits through the VA. I didn't know I could. So I went to the VA. I let them know, like, hey, I haven't been able to stay sober since I got out of the Marine Corps. And they let me do this residential treatment program called New Directions for Veterans. And
what year was that?
That was 2013. I remember I went in on my birthday thinking, I'm going to go on my birthday. This is going to be a gift I'm going to do it for me, because I had tried to get sober a bunch of times. I tried to get sober for the wife. I tried to get sober for the girlfriend or the kids, but whenever that person or that thing I got sober for, like, failed me, then all I had was, then I'd go back. But I finally realized, like, if I got sober for myself, then it didn't matter what failed me. I was going to do this for me. And so I went in on my birthday. I thought my birthday and my sobriety day were going to be the same. But I relapsed because I went into treatment I didn't believe that I was an alcoholic. I thought I was just a drug addict. And so I went into treatment. I continued to drink beer, and a lot of things had to happen for me to realize, wow, every time I relapse, it starts with that first beer. It starts with alcohol. And, my dad, my dad and I had the relationship we had growing up. And so he came to pick me up one day from treatment. And that meant a lot to me, because, he didn't, there was a lot of weekends where he didn't pick me up at all growing up. And so that he drove all the way out to LA to come take me out of treatment, to go have pizza with me and connect with me. It meant a lot. And so, but he had the same mentality I did. Like, if you would just stop using drugs, you'd be able to get your life back on track. There's nothing wrong with having a beer here and there. And I remember telling him, that's why I'm here. I'm trying to stop using these drugs, And so, but then we went to go eat pizza and split a pitcher of beer. And so,
definitely not seeing the bigger picture of the overall problem.
Right. Yeah. And so, I didn't see it. He didn't see it. And we had a great time. We connected. I gave him a hug afterwards and went back into the treatment center. And they asked, how'd your visit with your family go? And I said it was good. And so I remember the rehab monitor, he had said, man, that's what it's all about, was reconnecting with family and you know, we start getting everything back little by little. And so I went upstairs and I went to bed, and that time with my dad just validated everything that I had believed. You see, I'm not an alcoholic. I don't have a problem with alcohol. It's drugs. And so the next day, I had been diagnosed with some mental health problems while I was in rehab, and they said, you know what, you got to go to Social Security office. You got to start filing for disability. I'm like, man, is my mind really that gone? And so they make us go on this buddy system so that we're a little bit more accountable. And they sent me to the Social Security office with another buddy of mine that was in treatment, and we got to our appointment. They said, hey, you got to come back at 3 p.m. It's too early. We'll come back at 3. And so I'm thinking, what are we going to do with all this time? And so there was a pizza parlor across the street, and I told my buddy Daryl, hey, let's go get a pizza when they open. And so we did that, and I said, hey, do you have a problem with alcohol? He's like, no, I'm a heroin addict. And I said, oh, okay, cool. So you'll be fine if we have a pitcher of beer. I don't want you to relapse or anything, you know, thinking that, you know, alcohol was
always looking out for the other guy.
Yeah, exactly. So we had a pizza and a pitcher of beer, and it went so well that, you know, I ordered another pitcher of beer, and nothing bad happened. We were having a good time. Before you know it, man, we're 4 pitchers beer deep. I missed my appointment, couldn't go back to the rehab with a buzz, and my best thinking at the time was, you know, I'm going to call my connect. He'll bring a little bit of methamphetamine so we could shake off this buzz and walk into the treatment center like nothing happened. So my connect comes through. He brings heroin and meth, and I relapsed on both. I relapsed on all 3, alcohol, heroin, and meth, and I'm sitting outside on the curb. And I had already been in treatment for a couple months at the time, I think 3 months. And so, you know, in our morning meetings, we read this chapter that says, this is a progressive illness. We get worse, never better. And I was sitting on that curb, relapsed on everything. And I didn't even do heroin growing up or any of that. But here I was, and I was like, holy shit, I'm getting worse, never better. I'm in treatment and I'm getting worse. And so I think that was my bottom. That's where I realized, like, this thing is going to kill me if I don't try to do something different. And we went back to the treatment center the next day because we had been out all night, and they told me that, you know, pack your shit, get out of here. If you're not going to take your recovery serious, then we can't have you jeopardizing other people's recovery by you coming in here loaded. And I couldn't argue with them. I didn't argue. I didn't lie. I just said, yeah, you know, I'm pissed hot. I'm dirty. I don't know what happened. I fucking relapsed. And so they asked me what my plan was when I'd exit the program. And I said, you know, I can't live like this, dabbling in drugs and alcohol. It's not working. So I think I'm going to go and try to get into another treatment program, and maybe I'll be successful there. Maybe I'll try it differently this time. And the director is like, I think he saw the sincerity and the frustration in my face, not really knowing what happened. And he said, you know, I'm going to give you one more chance here, but if you even breathe wrong, you're out of here. And so get your ass up to detox, take your bags with you, and come back down in a couple days, and we'll start programming again. And
prior to that one relapse, you said you'd been in rehab now for about 3 months at that point.
Yeah.
Had you had any problems, or had it been going pretty smooth for you?
Oh, and it was going smooth for me because, yeah, I nobody knew that when I'd leave the treatment center to go run my errands or whatever, I thought I was slick by just having a beer here and there. I'd stop at a bar, have a beer with other buddies that were in rehab with me, and we'd have one beer, yeah. So everything, we stayed away from the drugs, and everything was going smooth.
What was the tipping point, or what was the event that finally made you realize alcohol was actually your driving problem, not the drugs in the sense of you were in your mind, oh, I'm just going to get off the drugs, everything will be good. When was that point where you realized, oh man, I need to get off the alcohol?
It was in detox when the director sent me back up to detox, and normally detox is full of people who are dope sick and withdrawing, and for some reason there was no one up there. It was me, the fluorescent lights, and they were buzzing so loud, and I could only hear my thoughts and the buzzing of the lights. And I just remember it getting so loud, and I just broke. I got on my knees, man. I broke. I cried out to God. I was like, please help me. Help me get sober. And help me to make me strong enough to where I can be used in this recovery stuff. I don't want to just have a regular job and be able to provide for a family and be sober and go do it all over again. Like if you don't find a way to miraculously fix me and be able to use me, then I won't stay sober. I don't think I can stay sober. And I honestly believe that my prayers were answered that night. Something spiritual happened. I woke up the next day with this fire in me. I felt like the kid who was bullied, like alcohol and drugs had kicked my ass for long enough, and I was pissed. And so, the next day, when I woke up, I was really hungry for whatever was in that book, whatever they were, whether it was NA or AA. I wanted to get whatever those people had, and I said, I'm done listening to anyone who doesn't have a year or more of sobriety, and so everyone who had a year or more of sobriety, they all said, go to meetings, get a sponsor, and start working these steps, and that's what I did. I went to meetings. I asked someone if they would sponsor me and guide me through this step work that they talk about in these 12-step programs. And I finally started to see my part in all these things that I was angry about. Like everyone who did me wrong, everyone who I blamed, nobody put a gun to my head and forced me into those situations, into those relapses. I put myself there, and I have to take ownership of that. I have to stop being a victim. And once I started taking ownership for where my life was going, oh my God, my mental health problems just started getting, they really, blaming other people and playing the victim, that will drive you nuts. You'll really believe, poor me, I don't have this shot. I don't have a shot at life. And that's what I was doing to myself. I'd
like to ask you a question in that, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but in my mind, I'm kind of thinking, when you got to that point and you realized that you had been blaming everybody else, and you use the word, all the people that did me wrong, mm-hmm. Was there that point where you crossed the bridge and you actually, and I'll use the metaphor of looking in a mirror, did you actually look in the mirror and say, wait a minute, it's been me that's been doing all of them wrong?
Yeah. And it was when I started doing my sobriety step work, that I would write down all the things all the reasons why I'm mad at them.
And they were all things you were doing to them?
Yeah. It was like, oh wow, that, I started all of that crap. And I saw my part in everything, and I was like, oh my God, man, I should be mad at me. I'm mad at my mom for slamming the door on me when I needed help the most. But I'm like failing to see that I put her through hell for years, and I'd be out all night and she couldn't sleep. And I always needed something from someone, and just, man, I caused all this, and so I was seeing a therapist at the time, and even my therapist was like, man, your recovery is is coming along. I see you changing. And he asked me if I wanted to volunteer at the mental health clinic that he worked out of. And I remember thinking, I don't need a volunteer. I need a job, I don't, but they weren't going to give me a job, and it made me feel like I had a job. And so I went to go volunteer, and I had maybe 90 days sober at the time, or, maybe a couple months sober. And I would go out with this psychologist to go meet her homeless patients. And I would talk about how I'm in this program and I'm sober and it's really helping me. And if they want to come in, at least they'll know me once they get there. And I started seeing how that little bit of service work started affecting other people's lives, and people were coming into treatment. And that volunteer work turned into a 7.5-year career with the Department of Mental Health. And I started housing more homeless veterans and more families that were dealing with alcoholism and addiction. And I started doing things that I was finally proud of. And all these things that I just fucked up, man. I messed up so many things early on. Messed up so many things in the Marine Corps. I did so many things that I'm just not proud of. I'm starting to see that all that had to happen so that I can connect with that person that also failed at so many things. It's about to blow his fucking head off. And yeah, man, it's been such a journey. Being able to be part of the solution and carry a message of hope that, like, man, it doesn't matter how bad you mess up, you can always change.
The crazy thing to think about is going back to you going in the Marine Corps, you did it for all the wrong reasons. You went in to try to prove something to somebody else, not to do anything to better yourself. You were given the opportunity to just simply go out and be a shadow, so to speak, to this person going out and dealing with homeless people. To a degree, maybe you didn't necessarily feel that you wanted to do that or that you deserved to do that, but look how much it gave back to you. Yeah. And so it was what you needed. It was what gave you that sense of purpose. At the same token, it gave you the motivation that, okay, now I am a guiding light for somebody, so I've got to keep myself on track.
Exactly. I have beautiful friends, and a beautiful girlfriend has beautiful family, and everyone is able to drink responsibly and have this good time. And I'm telling you, like, sometimes people make a cold beer look sexy, and when I think about you know what, if I even taste that beer, I am my 9 years of sobriety starts back at zero. I lose my primary purpose, and I lose this platform that I've been able to talk about, carry a message of hope. I lose all of that, and I'm not losing. I'm staying on my, I'm focused on my mission, and I love being of service. I love being a designated driver. When my family or friends want to have a good time. But I finally understand what it's like to be a grateful, recovered drug addict and alcoholic, because I never understood why people said that. How can you be grateful for being an alcoholic? I'm grateful because I can be of service. I can help people. My family and friends call me when their family is struggling with someone, and for me to be that one that was nobody wanted near them or their family because he was tripping, to be that person that they call now. And Eric, I love my daughter, my son. Like, what do I do? It's really an honor and a privilege to be able to be in that role versus that lost role that I was in for so many years.
Having never served, but every Marine that I've ever come in contact with, it's never, you never call a Marine a former Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. And I'm going to put this, and this is just my take on your story. Every Marine goes through boot camp and it changes their mind. It makes them a Marine. The Marine Corps makes you a Marine. You went through boot camp through your years of being an addict. Mm-hmm. Now's your chance to, it changed you, so to speak, but you came out the end of that, out of boot camp, as now a squared away former drug addict and alcoholic. And you're now like your cousin, the hard charger who can show you, hey man, I've been here, follow me.
Yeah.
I mean, if I can put it into a sense that, because I honestly believe that what you've gone through, but what you're doing today and your ability to give back, there's not a lot of people, in my opinion, who can say that they pulled themselves out, but more importantly, have said, hey, I'm going to put a hand back and I'm going to try to pull as many of you out of this hole also.
Man, and that is, thank you for that. That is, I'm so grateful to be in a position now that I can look back and say that, I might not be that decorated war hero I set out to be, but man, I've helped pull so many veterans that are struggling with post-traumatic stress and with drug addiction, decorated veterans, and to see them months later at the VA hospital, and I don't even recognize them. Hey, Eric, it's me. You remember you helped me get into this program, and man, thank you for helping me save my life, man. And that's good enough. That's good enough for me, and that's what I wish someone would have told me when I was younger. Greatness is determined by service. There's this quote, and it's my favorite quote. It's from Dr. Martin Luther King. He says, "Not everyone could be famous, but everyone could be great, because greatness is determined by service." And as long as, if we could find something that's greater than us, some way to give back, God, man, it really crushes that ego. It puts things in perspective. Shit, yeah, man, I used to want my life to look like a rap video. That's what I thought life was. I
want to be on MTV Cribs, man.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought you made it when you got to that point, and I've realized it doesn't matter what you have when you start feeling bad or you have those automatic negative thoughts. It's the service that you provide to others that's really what reminds you, hey, you're a good person.
Taking it a step further, you work with, and I'll loosely call it, a mobile health clinic.
Yes.
Is that the original group that you started going out with, or is that something completely different?
No. So this is something new. So I run with the Skid Row Running Club. One of the, that running club has, it's full of recovering addicts, police officers, social workers, doctors, lawyers, just a mixed bunch of awesome people. And Dr. Hockman, he's a runner in the club, and he knew the type of work that I did, and he was getting involved in street medicine and wanted to start the street medicine team. And he said, "Hey, I'm going to start this street medicine team. It's called Healthcare in Action. Would you come on and be one of the be my lead peer navigator and help me build this team?" And if you know any good outreach folks or nurses or any connections, bring them on. And so we started this team, and I got to hire some of my friends that were already in the field that were doing amazing work. And so now we work with, we work with this mobile clinic that pretty much anything you can do at a clinic, we can do out of the van. And we go meet our patients wherever they're at, and whoever wants to come in to rehab or get services, there's so many services in LA, and that's what, I hate hearing that we have a homeless problem in LA. I think, we kind of do have a homeless problem, but we have a drug problem. And as long as we're not able to address all the drugs, this homeless problem is going to continue to grow. And so, so when we go out, we carry a message of hope. We bring water, snacks, and we're able to treat people's immediate medical needs, but also we let them know that they don't have to be homeless on the streets. We can help get them into a program, and they could take that step towards getting their life back. But I'll be honest with you, man, the drugs are so powerful that a lot of people are like, I'm not going to program. And it almost, we lose our ability, these drugs snatch our ability to make a decision that's going to benefit us. And we will throw everything away. We will use until we die if somebody doesn't separate us from that drug. And if it's by jail, hospital, whatever, it needs to happen.
And I wouldn't wish this on everybody, but I'll put myself in the group that doesn't understand addiction. Mm-hmm. I've never been in that position. There hasn't been anything that has controlled my life that I was like, I got to have that. That being said, it's not fair for me or anybody else to say, you don't have, it's in your head. Just stop using it. We don't understand the draw and the drive to get it.
Yeah. And most people, it's so hard to describe. I mean, there's so many, like in recovery, we're told that it's cunning, baffling, and it's powerful. As soon as we think we gave up the habit, we kicked the habit, something will happen where we'll find ourselves in a situation and like the stars just aligned. You're trying to stay sober. You're at a wedding and you catch your girl cheating on you or something, and you didn't drive. And then before you're just like pissed, and you piss away all your sobriety. When you're an addict or an alcoholic, there's no way to fight all these things that can happen unless you have a solid program where your mission is to stay sober and be that hand to help someone else who might be struggling. That way, when life shows up, man, things suck sometimes, but I'm not going to let all these other people down who are kind of counting on me to stay strong. I'm not going to throw my sobriety away for anyone. And, that's kind of like where I'm at now with the street medicine team. We go out, we see some gnarly stuff, man. People are just slamming in front of us. I mean, they're out of their, a lot of them are out of their mind. They're angry. Some are crying. Some are willing to go. Most are not. I know my reason for being out there, so it really doesn't affect me as much as, I have a sponsee that I was able to get hired on, and he says, man, I go out there and some of these guys are taking a hit of a clean pipe and just blowing it out. And I know that feeling. I see it sometimes, and sometimes it does. Like I have to play the tape out, man, Eric, you can come out here, and something in my head shows me getting high with this dude and ended up right where he's at, but it doesn't trigger me like I thought it would. There's some power that is with us that helps us carry on out there with a purpose.
Well, I think that goes back to what we talked about in the very beginning, where as a young man, your drive was to take care of your family. And even though you perceived yourself and you were acting very immature and had no guidance, there was your internal compass that was about taking care of others. And so even now, as deep as you got in your addiction and you can see somebody else still in the middle of theirs, the desire to take care of people and to be that voice or that point of, I don't want to use the word goodness, but I squared myself away. That's what's more powerful to you. So it sounds like it's always kind of been in there. You just needed that motivation to kind of draw it out.
Yeah, I needed to realize that. I wish I would have had this drive when I was in the Marine Corps too, where I'm like, I don't care if my unit is a bunch of assholes. I don't care if the person that I'm with is having an affair. Like, I have a mission, and I'm going to be the best Marine that I can be. I bet if I would have stayed with that mentality, things would have changed, and things would have worked out for me differently. But things had to happen the way they happened for me to be here now, to do what I do now. And I really that the mission focus then, it probably would have been different. I have this mission focus now that so many bad things, not bad things, so many challenging things have happened in my life that I'm able to see that as long as I stay in the efforts department and leave the results to God, everything's going to be okay. It doesn't matter what I'm going through. If it's something at work, if it's something financial, if it's something in a relationship, if I lose someone close to me, for me, history has shown me over and over and over again in my life that if I stay grounded and I just stay doing the right thing, my higher power, my God is gonna take care of me. It's gonna get me through it. And I didn't see that stuff in the Marine Corps, man. I just thought like nothing's going my way. It's gonna turn out so shitty, and I kind of wish that I would have stayed just doing the right thing no matter what. And that's kind of like my message to anyone who's going through stuff in the military or just going through stuff in life in general. If you don't let that derail you and you just stay being the best person that you can be and do the next right thing, everything is gonna work out all right. It doesn't matter what's in front of you. Do the right thing, and things will work out.
But to put it in a different perspective, and not to say that I think every one of us at some point in our life has I wish this would have happened. We are where we are today. And me personally, I wouldn't change anything in my life. Has it been a perfect life? Of course not. None of us have had a perfect life. I look at it this way, though. Had you gone in the Marine Corps, had it completely squared you away, had it been a perfect experience for you, maybe even made it a career, you could look at it from another angle of how many people wouldn't be being helped today by you because of what you're giving back and by what you're doing.
And thank you for that. That's kind of what gets me through the would have, should have, could have. You know, I can look at things like that, and
whether you had a different calling, you know, destiny, whatever you want to think about, for whatever reason, your path took you to where you're at today. Mm-hmm. And your path has put you in a position to help a lot of people that, if, like you were saying, if you could have go back and change things, they wouldn't be, and I don't even want to say necessarily helped, they just wouldn't be impacted by you being in their lives.
Right. Yeah. I'm so grateful to have been able to be part of so many people's recovery. You know, hundreds to be part of their recovery, their recovery from homelessness, maybe their recovery into sobriety, however I was able to impact their life. Man, I'm grateful that
maybe you're just that one person that actually talks to them without judgment. You know, something as small as that. You may not be the catalyst per se to get them off drugs. But who knows? Maybe they look back and you go, you know what? He just talked to me like a person. He didn't talk down to me. He understood where I was at. And maybe that's one piece of their puzzle moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You know, the dudes who helped save me, they didn't talk to me about trying to get sober or any of that. They just talked to me like humans, and they were surfers, worked in the mental health field, definitely were into sobriety. You know?
I don't know what you're trying to imply about surfers.
Right, yeah, you know, and they were just good people, man, that made me want to. I remember telling the guy, one of the guys who helped me, Nick, I said, man, Nick, if I could help just one person the way you helped me, I'd feel like my life, there was a purpose in my life. And to be able to do that over and over and over again, it's just been like, thank you, God, for hearing me when I was down on my knees and just over it, man.
Taking it back a little bit to what we were talking about when we first started about you running and ultimately doing marathons, how'd you come to be involved with the Skid Row Running Club? I mean, where did running come from for you?
So I was about 3 years sober. And we go to these meetings where there's always cake and ice cream and coffee and cigarettes. And I ballooned, man. I got like 300 pounds and I was depressed and my mental health symptoms started coming back. And the doctors that I would talk to, they'd say, you got to get out, man. You got to get active. Even if it's just a walk around the block. And I went to go buy a pair of running shoes, and I saw this stack of flyers for the Skid Row Running Club. And at the time I was working downtown, doing a homeless veterans outreach. And I said, you know what, I could meet up with these guys in the morning when they go run at 6 a.m. and then just go to work from there. And when I first met them, man, I couldn't run. I wasn't in shape to do the full 4.5, 5 mile run that they do. But the guy I was talking to, I didn't know that he was a judge. I didn't know anything about the Skid Row Running Club. Only thing I knew about them was that they were a group of guys who met downtown in Skid Row, and they ran at 6 a.m. And so I was like, that's what I need. I need some accountability. And, man, that running club has changed my life, man. I've met some of the best people. I met my new boss there. My career is taken off, and it all happened through sobriety of the running club. And one of the runners in our club, Philip Pang, he said, alone we run fast, together we run far. And that's been my story with this running club is I never thought that I'd be able to run 26 miles or from Canoga Park to Long Beach. That's just, I remember thinking a marathon is something I wanted to do once in my life. I just wanted to do it once. And now it's something that I feel like it's just something we do.
It's part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And the weird thing to think about that, though, is, and I've heard this before, is people end an addiction, whatever it is, but they usually pick up something else. And a lot of times it's overeating.
It is.
And so it almost seems like, why don't treatment centers incorporate dealing with the addiction and working out at the same time?
I wish they did so bad, man. Because, in these rehabs, I guess maybe they're trying to cut costs, but we eat a ton of rice, a ton of bread, carbs and cakes, and maybe it's because we go in there strung out and 50 pounds, and they're like, we got to fatten these guys up, but it doesn't stop. My disease, my addiction has manifested itself so many times in a food addiction, and I still struggle with that. And I thank God that I have my running club community, my coworkers that are athletes. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for a little while, surfing. And so these are all things that I try to that keep me my weight manageable, because I eat like a madman. And if I could just, I'm in school right now also. And so I don't have time to cook and make all these meals. And one of the chefs in our running club, she's like, here, I'll meal prep for you. And she sends me these healthy meals, and I'm just trudging, man, trying to make it without blowing up and without losing my mind.
How'd you get into jiu-jitsu? I know you mentioned martial arts when you were a little kid.
Yeah, I think I've always had a thing for martial arts. I did a little bit of boxing in high school, but I was always heavy, and so like the dudes that were my weight, like Mike Tyson was like 185 or something. He's just huge, man. So I've always been a heavier guy, and so a boxing career wasn't in my path, but I got into jiu-jitsu. I think I started working out at the UFC gym, and I wanted to check it out, and then so I've had some sponsors through my sobriety, but my sponsor's a black belt, and I was like, man, this guy is 60 years old, and he got sober at, like, I don't know, 30 or something, or 20 or something like that. So he's got long-term sobriety, and he's a badass. Like, I want to do what that guy does, And so yeah, I get some training in when I can, and I really enjoy it.
Because I'm coming up on 2 years now into my journey
jiu-jitsu?
with jiu-jitsu.
Oh, wow.
And one of the things that I often tell people is, if you want to have something that will put you in a situation to where you have to calm yourself and in your mind, all right, let's start working my way out of this problem, spend some time on the mat. And I imagine for somebody trying to get rid of an addiction, that would be a great catalyst, because it really puts you in an environment of, you can tap. But what I mean is, if you really stick with it, you'll learn that bad situations will end.
Yes. And it's one of the few things that you have to be in the moment. Like, you're not thinking about work emails. You're not thinking about problems. You're just thinking about staying alive, man. Not getting killed in there. But and it's the same. I love running, but running, it's easy to get in your head. It's a good release. But I often find myself in my head when I'm running thinking about all these things, and so surfing was one of those things where I'm like, man, I don't think about anything other than not letting that wave break my neck. And it's the same thing with jiu-jitsu. I mean, when I'm in there, I'm not thinking about anything other than getting out of this little jam I'm in here, and I love it.
So, coming full circle, your actual job today, though, is, and kind of tying back into the podcast of Transition Drill, you work for the city of LA in the housing
No, so I work for a nonprofit called Healthcare in Action.
Oh, okay. Then my mistake. I was under the impression that you actually worked for the city of LA.
So I used to work for the county of Los Angeles, Department of Mental Health, and that's where that's where I was working with the it's called the Veteran Peer Access Network, and through the running club I met my new boss, Dr. Mike Hockman, and he just he talked me into wanting to start this street medicine team with him, because when I was with the county, we only did mental health and drug rehab stuff, and here with this team, being able to go out with a doctor, a nurse, a mental health clinician, and someone with lived experience. I mean, that's real wraparound services, and so I'm the housing specialist. Once the street team is able to get someone document ready. Oh, and that's another cool thing is when I was with the county, we were a veterans program. I only housed veterans. That's all I knew how to do. But with this team, I was able to, everything we were doing with veterans, I was able to learn and apply to the civilian population, and everything that's available to veterans is also available to civilians. It's maybe not as nice as a lot of the stuff that's offered through the VA, but it's available. And so I'm the housing specialist for our team, and we help folks on the street get their ID, their social security card, and proof of income, and we start applying to different housing programs or drug treatment programs, transitional living, and it's all a stepping stone, man. It's not always. When I first came off the streets and they said, "Hey, I have an apartment in Van Nuys," I'm like, "Van Nuys? I don't even know anyone in Van Nuys, and it's hot out there. I don't want to live out there." But I see now that it was a stepping stone, and it was the beginning of this. It was the beginning of a beautiful story, man. And that's what I try to tell these guys that I work with. It's not permanent. It's just a stepping stone, and it's a step in the right direction. If you just have faith and do the next right thing, nothing bad is going to happen. But if you stay in this spot where you're at, you don't know what's going to happen, and chances are it's going to be something bad. And I've had that happen time and time again, man, where I drive out to go see one of my clients, and there's flowers where his tent used to be. And I'm like, what's going on? And like, this dude passed away like this weekend. I'm like, man. And sometimes I feel like, damn, I couldn't help him fast enough. And I got to realize, I'm not in control like that. And thank God that things didn't work out the way I wanted them to in the Marine Corps, because if just these things that I see on the street where I lose someone that I'm working with, and it bothers me, and it like really affects me, shit, man. Some of the things that my family has seen, serving overseas in different conflicts, man, that's really, I see how it affects them. And I think, like my father said, I was an emotional kid, and it probably wouldn't have worked out well for me.
Well, I wish you the best going forward. I commend you for everything that you've been through, kind of pulling yourself out of it. But most importantly, I really commend the work you're doing to give back and to keep pulling those out. I wish you the best going forward.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it, man. I really appreciate being here, being part of your podcast, and yeah, man.
If somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Shoot me a text, email, ericb 9460@gmail.com or ebarrera@healthcareinaction.org.
I'll put the 2 emails in the show notes so people can reach out to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the best. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you, brother.
I appreciate you watching. But before you go, if you like the video, please hit that subscribe button. Also, any comments are appreciated. Thank you.